Hailing back all the way from the days of Medarot Dual, this arachne type specializes in trapping shooters and then peppering them with punishment. It is ARN00 Hellweaver, with a kit of Shoot Trap, Thunder Shot, Napalm, Multi-Legs, and the leg ability of Charm, which reduces damage taken from enemies if they are of the opposite gender. Now, as a model that's been around in the modern 3D games for a while, it is nice to see yet another relatively recent returnee join the game of Medarot S as a model that can be pulled for and collected. And her skills, even as diverse as they are, can be made moderately dangerous if used correctly. Shoot Trap is a setup-based skill that, once used, will set a negative plant on the field that triggers anytime an opponent uses a shooting-based skill. So this is designed for passive damage and passive aggression, and if used correctly, you can basically outlive your opponent and watch them kill themselves off as long as you can keep the trap going. Thunder Shot is a shooting-based skill and a negative ailment that will stop foes in their tracks, basically a shooting version of Thunder, but will stall them wherever they are on the field, whether that be in heat phase or cool phase, and they will stay there until they are attacked again or until the ailment is negated or removed. Napalm is a gunpowder-based skill that is a scattered AoE, meaning it will damage all parts. It will damage one part normally, and then two others at random at 1/3 of your damage. Now, it is also worth noting with scattered AoEs that they do normally have a slightly higher crit rate innately than most other skills, so this will kind of comp for her relatively low base damage, or the fact that her overall ability as a fighter is relatively mixed. But she does honestly make up for it, and her kit does synergize moderately well if used correctly. Multi-legs means that she will have moderately solid coverage on most terrains decently well, arguably one of the next best under biped in many situations. And the leg ability of Charm is going to be really, really nice for those female and mono-female teams, especially if you want to keep damage low, since most bots are typically male in nature. Stats across the board too are honestly relatively nice, and even if she doesn't specialize in damage, she does honestly have a pretty nice base damage number for both her parts. At about just shy of 1100 for Thunder Shot, and Napalm at about 1320 base power, they are honestly very good. Leg stats with 765 and mobility is very nice, kind of in that upper tier sweet spot of where multi-legs need to be or should be. Evade 702 isn't super great, but given as tanky as she is, or at least for the legs, this does honestly kind of make itself back up to a point. Shoot resist a 1610 is really good though, as this means she can definitely hold her own when fighting enemies from afar, which is essentially where her best mastery lies as a passive aggressor toward them. But when it comes to up close and personal, that is where she dies very quickly, because with a melee resist of 644, she's going to be eating a lot of punish damage from anyone that tries to get in close and deal with her personally. Her armor pull is relatively mixed as well to a point, little squishy, but at the same time it's not, with a hit HP at about 3300 and her only heavy part on the build. Arms at about 2700 each, and legs at about 3650. And a heavy slot of 2 means that she's actually a model that has an extra empty heavy slot that's going unused. Now, if you use her as a pure set, you really don't have to pay too much attention to this. But if you're using her as mixed parts, this actually does give her just a little bit more of an edge when it comes to customization. Because, say, if you decide not to use Thunder Shot as example, you can pair it off with any other part that's a heavy part and still remain within the limit. That being said, as a pure stat score, I do honestly have to rate her a very solid 6.5 out of 10. Her head and leg actually have very good synergy with each other, as it means that she can essentially keep the shoot trap alive almost indefinitely, or at least as long as necessary for the foes to kill themselves off before she has to reset the trap or reapply it before it expires. Thunder Shot and Napalm are honestly very good, not necessarily for damage, but more for stalling and peppering. So while nuking may not be her specialty, she's definitely going to be very good at entrapping foes and making sure that someone behind her can finish the job. But one of her big weaknesses, of course, is her very low melee resist, which means that anyone who does get up close and personal is going to wreck her very easily. As mixed parts, I do have to rate her just a little higher at a 7 out of 10. Given, like I said, the head and legs synergize very, very well together, and if you wanted to go with a moderately support or passive aggression based kit, you're already off to a very good start with that. All you'd have to do essentially is pair it off with, say, charge plant or heater plant or repair or first aid, or something else you can do to kind of help fill in the hole, because Ness actually complements the setup skills very, very well. Now, as mentioned by herself, she is not a nuker, she is a staller and a trapper to her nature as an arachne type. But that does not negate any of her viability on the field for what she does best.